The rightly dividing is the key to life. How do you keep things that are in tension in balance? Now, I'm not talking about being balanced for God, because we're all in, right? Are you guys all in? I'm all in. Everything I have, everything I do, I want it to be pleasing to the Lord. I heard Lance Wallnow. I called my director, like my diagonal guy in my business, my new promotion. I said, you got to hear this guy. This guy, Lance, he's gonna really give us some insight for our business. And God's going to do some awesome things. He's a believer, but I already had some weird encounters. My VP, when I talked to him, we got so connected, I forgot I wasn't in church. And as I was walking away, I was like, man, awesome. Really nice meeting you. And I went like this far, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hugging my VP. It was weird, like, because it would have been cool if I had just went with it, because he was going for it, I was going for it, and then like right when I got to the real squeeze, I was like, OMG, wow, awkward. And he felt me just freeze. I was like, man, that's crazy. I just thought I was in church for a minute. So it was cool, but here's the thing. For us to be naturally supernatural, see, God created life, called it Zeo. Abundant life. And this abundant life is the reality of walking in the Spirit. Notice you're walking. You're not lounging in the Spirit. You can be walking drunk in the Spirit, but you're not. You can wait on the Lord, but then when you get direction, there's time to move. Mobilize what God's saying to you. You have to be the legs on what God's doing. Like Jesus says, I only do what I see the Father doing. But he didn't say, I let the Father do everything while I just keep believing. That didn't go over. That was like Led Zeppelin. Lead balloons going down. So, listen, guys. So we create ministry to try to fix these things, right? We say stuff like this: the church is like a hospital. And it is. But the reality is that we're not the doctors. And you guys think we're the doctors. And I don't know how to do brain surgery. I don't know. I'll be malpracticed before you know it. You know, I have no abilities in myself to help fix what God needs to do for you. And so when we come to the hospital, the best we can say we're doing is taking you to the doctor. And so a lot of times you think we're the doctor. And so you go, Todd White, he wrecked me, because I'm sitting here in this world where I'm hearing this, the hay wants to be the empower of your life. And what you saw yesterday, God wants to do today. And it's obvious, you guys feel it in the atmosphere, I'm sure, but here's the key. If it's available, how do we actualize it? See, I'm pretty practical when it comes to these things, even though God usually blows my mind, because he sometimes does things in impractical ways. But all we have to do is find out what he's saying. So even though we're a hospital, he talked about it this way: I love Jesus. And you can't keep, if you think we have the answers, you're going to come to us again and again and again, and we can't always be there for you. So you end up getting wounded because people aren't there for you when you need them. This is the interesting key, that people will let you down when God needs them to. See, you're blaming the people, but God needs them to let you down, because he doesn't like other gods in your life. I just break off all that stuff that makes you rely on man to take you to Jesus or to take you to the Father. Jesus already built the bridge. The most important thing for me is to build people empowered to know their God. It's my responsibility, and my sole responsibility is to love you in a way that you know that God loves you, but not to be God for you. Not to go up on the mountain like Moses, praise the Lord, and get the tablets and bring them back down while you're baking calves. It's not okay. You're supposed to, God's desire is to bring us all up the mountain for ourselves. See, what happened to Moses happened inside Moses. But he brought something that everyone else had to read, and it was only a soulish thing. So we're called to make disciples. We're called to make disciples. Does anybody believe that? So I called Dan, and I was like, dude. You hear Todd White enough, you just keep saying dude. So it's like, dude, Dan, dude, Todd crushed it. And he said, I'll tell you what, he's very sensitive to the Spirit, and if he started talking about this stuff, it's because it needed to be talked about. And he talked about people coming to conferences and people coming to church, and they come because they're ministry crazed. Now, I love conferences, but I use it for a different purpose, and I don't always, I'll say this, I don't always have it all together, and I don't always go for the right reasons. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I really want to hear what that guy has to say. But the reality is getting alone and in solitude and setting your affections on God in that time is what really matters. That's why when I went to Brownsville, it was like that, because I had nothing else to know except for this is where God's at. That was really easy for me. Like, you're not saved. You just smoked pot on this day, like a couple days ago, and now you're in this church service acting like, woo, praise the Lord. And I really didn't know anything better. But I go before God and I get wrecked and transformed, filled with the Spirit. So, here's the thing, guys. Ministry's never going to satisfy you because it's not made to. If you come to people and expect their word, here's the thing. How many people have had an incredible prophetic word that blew your mind? I have. I've had some amazing ones. No, some of you haven't? You really should get some prophetic words. So here's the key. Today's a good day. Today is a good day. We're gonna have the prophetic time after this, where the teams are going to get together and they're going to prophesy over you. Here's the thing. If you go up there and say, oh, I really need a word from you, then you missed the point. Because it's really all, what is God going to say to me? See how the focus shifts from God to man? I need this intercessor, this priest. I need him to come in between and help me out with my relationship. It's almost like you're counseling this person and God, and their relationship's really messed up. So you're like, well, what would you say to God if he was here right now? And he's like, God, he said this to you. And then you're like, you're counseling between God and man. And it's like, God doesn't want the middleman. It's hard to get intimate with the middleman in the room. This stuff, this was so heavy on my heart because I know what God wants to do. And I don't want us to have an unbalanced lifestyle. I don't want us to have Christians that come to church because you need something from God or because you need something from people. I don't want you to need worship. I want you to come in with worship. I want you to come in with praise. Oh, I need to be in here. That's cool when you do, but you have to really get that balance where you're coming for God. And if you just keep that first, everything else flows nicely. Those prophetic words that blew your mind, the next one, you get another one from somebody, and you're like, I need another word because that other word was so amazing. And you get the next word, and it lets you down. You ever had those words? How many people had the word that was just not quite so impressive? Well, last year at the women's conference, I was the timekeeper. Somebody needs to be a timekeeper because you guys get carried away. I think it's the nature of our church, but that's okay. Here's what I'm saying. I was watching as people go in, sit down, what's going to happen, and next thing you know, like grabbing Kleenexes out the thing, just going for it, right? And it's cool to see God move on people's lives, but the thing you need to always remember is that God wants to use you the exact same way. It's not like they're so amazing. They probably don't even know what they're saying. They're like, wow, that really hit them. Awesome, And they're just as amazed that God's using them as you are. Some people never prophesied before, sat in those chairs and gave words. It blew their mind that they could be used by God. And so that's the culture we want. It's kind of like the ecosystem of heaven is here for us to invite you guys to be empowered, not to look at us as the empowered ones. And then need us to talk to you, and need us to counsel you and pray for you. Because that's when we create an unhealthy dependence. This should be more like family. This should be much more like a family where we love each other for who we are, and we know that there's love there, but we don't have to have that touch from someone when God's here to touch us himself. And so, interestingly enough, Dan he was just really excited about the message because, he told me a lot of stories about how people have counted so badly on ministry that they would go and he would believe for them and they would go get in the next person's line, and Todd would come home and they would go back to the hotel and Todd would say, man, this person, they got so touched, da-da-da-da-da. And he'd say, man, that person was in my line getting touched. So you shouldn't have to get prayed for by every great speaker. When you get touched, you should just know that God just did it. Not the next guy needs to do it and the next guy needs to do it, and you create this dependency. And so that's why he got out of Power and Love. It's because he wants to be in a place where he can love on people and he can make it so that it's not about him. In a conference, it can easily be about him. But in a church setting, no one knows. A lot of churches he goes to, they don't know about that stuff. So here's the interesting thing. I went to a luncheon. Tracy got me into this luncheon with Lance Wallnow, and he's one of my favorite speakers. And I was talking to him. I'm just gonna, can I be open for a second? Because I need to show you how ministry craze gets you in trouble, and I'm going to show it with a self-humiliating example. Is that cool? Because you guys do this. If I do it, somebody in the room does it. If just one person benefits from me being honest, I'll appreciate it. So if I'm honest and you get to benefit, I appreciate that. So your scenario might be different, but here's what happened. I was in this luncheon. It was really awesome. It was kind of a small setting, and we were and at the end I talked to Lance, and I told him some of the things that were going on, and he said, what's the question? I told him the question, and then he was basically like, gave me some wisdom, and it was really awesome. But here's the thing. The next day, I was supposed to go to get coffee with Charles, and so coffee ended up being lunch. So we just went in the back, and Danny Silk had just gotten into a car accident, and his whole right side was hurting. So we got to pray over Danny Silk, and then I go back to the lunchroom with Charles. We're in his office, and then Lance comes in the room, and then Charles is like, this is a real good friend of mine. This is a pastor down, blah, blah, blah. And tells him everything that I told Lance. And he said, yeah, he told me that. And you could just feel the gift and the honor that was being given just drop. Because I'd already exalted myself. See, when God wants to prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies, you don't need to go giving out dinner cards. You don't need to tell people, I got a dinner coming. God's going to give me a dinner. God gave me word, I'm going to get a dinner. Just let him prepare the table, let you sit down, and let everybody needs to see come on parade and watch you sitting there right before all your enemies, and let God do it. It's really hard because you get see, I was part of a culture where that was kind of normal. And it's terrible because I realized that I'm still kind of detoxing from religion. Huh. As free as I feel sometimes, I'm glad that God can say, we still got some work to do. Huh? God's given me a heart to hear, and now that I have a heart to hear, she said. Amen. So he said to make disciples, go Go and make disciples. If anyone comes after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. You know when Jesus said that? Gethsemane. Right after Peter says, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he says, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you. Well, the next thing that Peter revealed was flesh and blood. Which was, what? That's not going to happen. We're getting out of here. And he goes, you don't know the things of God, but you're mindful of the things of man. And so this is the reason why I'm challenging you so openly. Because for God to be that real to us and that helper that he wants to be, the supernatural door opener, the supernatural things just falling into place, that means that you need to be a person of complete trust. I remember on Tuesday, we were speaking declarations over something, and I remember a specific declaration that was said. It was, sometimes the Lord tells you to go in, and then the very next time, the same enemy, he tells you to go around and come behind. The battle belongs to the Lord, but what does that mean? It means God has the strategy, and even the same enemy doesn't take the same strategy, because he's the Lord of war. He's going to destroy your enemies, but you can only do it his way. Because what I would have did if I was David, most likely, is I would have said, I beat these guys before. I know exactly how you do it, you know. Maybe some of you guys, I just need you to get real for a second, because here's how it happens. I've gotten victory in this area before. I know how to do it. And the reality is that the battle belongs to the Lord. So that enemy is not only your enemy, it's God's enemy. He wants to give you revelation on how he can turn those things around for your good. The reason why the enemy's coming a second wave or a second time is because God wants to do not only a deeper purging, but he also wants to make you a more wise vessel when it comes to helping others get out of that same hole. Oh, I know he can do it this way. I know he can do it that way. But I know ultimately the battle belongs to the Lord. So why don't we seek the Lord? Let's inquire of the Lord and see what he will do in this battle. And so a lot of times we end up going like, okay, I know the program. I know how you're supposed to do it. I know ABCs of how I get free. And we sit there and listen to people preach about, if you do A, if you do B, if you do C. Last week, in fact, I talked about when you give and when you pray and when you fast. 3 things given in Matthew 6. Obviously, they're important. They're like a threefold cord. But if you don't have those are kind of like foundational things. He's expecting that we have a prayer life. He's expecting that we have a consecrated lifestyle. He's expecting that we're yielded in our giving. And so all these things, the Lord's producing in us a foundation so that he can take us deeper. So he said, go into all the world and make disciples. So, Peter, you have in mind the things that you think are important, but the Father's telling me I must do this. I'm going to the cross, right? So he's not just telling us, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. He's saying, watch me do it. Watch me deny myself. Watch me take up my cross. And when you see that, then you'll know and be empowered to follow me. The point of the Pentecost, which is when Hay came, Ruach, the breath of God came, the Holy Spirit, invasion in Acts chapter 2. See, we need to be empowered so we can live that free lifestyle that he promised. And then when you see people with joy, it won't be such a strange thing. You'll be like, I got that. That's mine. When I see people with joy, I say, that's mine. When I see people with love, that's mine. I have access to these fruits of the Spirit. So, right after his greatest confession, Jesus is the Lord, he ends up saying, let's get out of here, Jesus. Because he said, well, now that I'm empowered, you know how many times, like, you get a good word and you say something, and Jesus is like, that's awesome. The next time you go like, well, I'm awesome now. It's like, right when you think that it was something to do with you, you're set up. And Jesus gives him the open rebuke that everybody thinks Jesus would be so sweet and wonderful. Get behind me, Satan. I'm sorry, but if your pastor said that to you, you might get a little offended, especially if you're wounded warriors. Get behind me, Satan. You don't have in mind the things of God, but the things of man. Now I say, like, Jesus is so sweet. Why is my pastor like that? I think it's backwards. Jesus is straight, and he wants the best for you. Read the whole Bible. It's really good. The whole Bible is really good. So here's a cool thing to think about. What's a disciple? Does a disciple go to church, goes to Bible study? I'm just talking about today's disciple. What we think, like if I say, what makes you a disciple? You say like, I go to church, I go to Bible study, I'm a tither, maybe I'm on the platform, I'm a worshiper, I'm a giver, I'm pouring into people, I'm sharing my faith. But ultimately, disciple meant this, guys. A disciple meant a discipled one or disciplined one. And it came from the word that these guys live up to the principles that Jesus talked about. They look like Jesus. Now, why is that so important? Because all these are true. Listen, all these, in fact, I made them check boxes just for all you guys, so we could check all of our boxes. And the reason why I did this is because my computer was down. So I was like, oh, I get to do it the old-fashioned way. So I drew little boxes, check boxes. Do I go to church? Am I a disciple? Do I go to Bible study? Am I a disciple? Am I on the worship team? Am I a disciple? Am I a tither? And see, all these check boxes do not make you a disciple. What makes you a disciple is, what do you do when your discipline's challenged? See, I'm full of love, but am I full of love when hate comes? I mean, it's good to feel like I am the light of the world. Thank you, Jesus. But if the lights go out and you get scared, so it's a matter of, what am I manifesting when it actually matters? See, people know what it's like I give something to you and you get happy and you're excited and you love me, right? Real deep love here. I give, you get excited, and you love me. What happens if that's his level of love for me, and I say, you don't have it in mind, the things of God, but the things of man? Get behind me, Satan. What happens when I do that? I go from like, buddy, I love you, buddy, I love you, pastor, to all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he has no love, and it's all about me treating you right instead of you reacting well, instead of you being discipled ones, disciplined ones. So it's like, more like, how do I respond is the question. Because if you look at what Jesus is saying, guys, I'm getting ready to be spit on. I'm getting ready to be mocked, cursed, called Antichrist. I'm getting ready to be so put down that most of you guys are going to run like cowards, though you think you're tough. Okay? Yeah, I know about Oklahoma. Somebody just got beheaded, right? Beheaded for their faith in Oklahoma, a woman, a new Islam convert. It's closer than you know. And I'm not really into fearing people out, because it's not really about fear. But the reality is, France will probably be an Islam state in about 5 to 10 years, just based on math, without something supernatural intervention. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for supernatural intervention. See, we don't have to go down with the ship. We need to tell the captain. We need to get influence. Here's what Lance was talking about. You need to get influence with the captain to trust you enough to take the boat a different way. See, the church is not influencing the president because they're too busy calling him bad names. So they have no influence. In fact, he doesn't like us at all, probably. probably like to do anything to get rid of us. And then we're going like, well, he's the Antichrist. Well, he's going to be more Antichrist the more you call him that. Because you have the power in your tongue to call things which they ought to be. But Paul was getting authority with the boat, with the captain. And the captain didn't listen. So the boat went right into the storm. But then after the storm, what happened? When everything starts rocking and everything starts going crazy, sometimes it takes that for people to listen to you. They say, Paul, what should we do? You told us this was going to happen. What happened? What should we do? And he says, now you got their attention. And you need to be prepared with an answer, Joseph. See, the church is busy saying what bad stuff's going to happen, but what's the answer, church? Jesus is the answer, but Jesus to Joseph was the answer of 20% of what comes into Egypt is going to be put in vats for the next 7 years when it gets lean. See, there was a real answer that Jesus gave to give favor to a man, to let him rule a nation that he wasn't even in charge of. It don't make sense. So Jesus has real good answers. Real deep answers, real perfect solutions. So as disciplined ones, we do what we do because of who we are. See, the real us is really brought out in times of pressure. And when God's not keeping us empowered, we don't look like Jesus. And so this year, I'm challenging any area that you need healing. And I've talked about a lot of things, guys. But I need you to be really cognizant. Because there are people in this room, I can almost point to you and say, oh yeah, that's happened to this person and they reacted this way. Now, it's not about that, but what it is about is a healing. It's not about what you've done. It's about how can God get you past it all. How can God break the rearview mirror entirely? How can God completely set you free? Right? Because when push comes to shove, I don't want you going back to the world. You know how sad it is to know people you poured in your whole life to for like 2-3 years and see them 25 years sentenced to jail time because they committed a BB gun armed robbery? It's embarrassing for them, and at the same time, to me, I want to be the solution and not just play church games. And I get it. Some people aren't there. You're not ready to lay down your life and help your neighbor and all that. You're just kind of trying to get a better life. I get that. There's a lot of people in this room just like, all I need is a better life. I don't care about that other helping people stuff. No, it's normal. I'm at least would guess about 70% of the room would say, like, I just really want a better life. And what we don't understand is that the better life comes in the giving. I mean, I just skip right to step 12. In the 12-step program, step 12, give back. Give back. It's the key to recovery, giving back. You were given so you could give back. I mean, we're not a recovery church per se, but I'd love to be. I think that recovery is a beautiful thing. And us not spiritualizing everything will do us a lot of good. So all these check boxes, watch this. All the check boxes, when we're disciplined ones, here's how it works. Am I a disciple because I go to church? Depends. Do I want to go to church? Because when I don't, because, I've had the week from Hades, and all things are coming against me, and I just can't even get out of bed. And I say, Lord, if I'll touch the hem of your garment. Now, see, I'm not going to church for you, and I'm not going to church for the ministry on this stage. I'm going to church to touch Jesus. See what I'm saying? A disciple knows how to take the same Jesus and put him in the context of their situation. Because the same things that I read that you could say could or don't have to make you a disciple, this is probably the most practical teaching I've given. But see, I'm just tired of phony people. I don't like phony people. Not that I don't like the person, but I don't like the phoniness. You know, if you get hurt by things, let's talk about it. I sat last week with somebody and really just tried to hammer out some things, showing, I'm not offended. Why are you? And I just called it like it was because we had enough relationship that I was willing to risk it. Most people in this room I couldn't do that with. Because it was like, the things I'm saying are either going to get you delivered or they're going to make you not be my friend anymore. And that's how I like to talk to people. But I can't, because people don't like to talk like that. People like it to be my fault and nothing to do with you. If I would have just did it all right, you'd be fine today. You'd be happy with a smile. And it's like the reality is the world's kicking your butt out here. And you're coming in here with wounded warriors. Oh, I can barely make it. And the victory's being sucked out of you because the disciple understands things differently. When things come against your giving, you don't go like, oh my gosh, things are coming against my giving. I can't tithe. Like, you don't think like that when you're a disciple. You don't think like my attendance should waver. You don't think like, and these are just basic because these are the same things I said. Should I pour into people? Well, I don't feel like pouring into people. I don't feel like being on the stage today. I don't feel like preaching today. Well, what am I going to do if I'm not a disciple? Is it a handoff because I don't feel like being on the stage? Is it a handoff because I don't feel like preaching? What do I do? Well, good thing is I don't have a bailout plan. Hey, I woke up this morning, I don't feel like preaching. Tracy, you got it, right? Absolutely not. She's not taking that ball and running anywhere with it. She needs like all this preparation time to go through all of her feelings and all that stuff. And I'm like, so there's no backup plan for me. It's the best thing God could ever do is not give you a backup plan. The reason why the Red Sea swallowed up behind your enemies is because you can't go back. They're all gone. Your enemies have been swallowed up. It was the most amazing Bible study last week. I really enjoyed. Blake kind of set the stage, and then there was some really awesome Holy Spirit stuff. But here's what the cool thing was. It's like it's no longer about your sin. It's about whether you're going to believe on Jesus. But it still is about something. Are you going to believe on the Son? Or are you going to deny the Son? And we do that in all these little teeny ways. Or we believe in the Son and say, I'm getting out of bed. I'm ready for this. I'm going to do what God's called me to do. I'm going to be a friend, even though inside I need a friend. You guys hear me? Zari. Get it. Oh. I'm going to be a friend even though I really need a friend. Funny thing is, that's what the Bible tells us to do. If you want to have friends, be friendly. Show yourself friendly. It's like so many people are like, no one likes me, no one's friendly. It's like, have you ever looked at yourself? Would you be your friend? No, I mean, you should ask people that because it will probably not help you be their friend either, but at least it will get them to think. Because the reality is, we need to take the principles of Jesus and put them into our walk. So, I'm ending on this because I feel like today is meant to be an empowering day where we can welcome a new year as a symbol of the new creation that God made us. And I've constantly these past couple days had to go like, I'm ready for more, Lord. You guys hear me? Deep conviction for more. And I've been like, Tracy, I want to be new. And you can't call me old. I'm going to be new. We have to watch calling people what they used to be. Because it's really easy to do if you have a history together. And what we need to do is say, man, I see the Jesus in you rising up. I see the Jesus in you rising up. So we got the Holy Spirit's here to make this year a new year. So that everything you saw when the door was open, most of you guys probably weren't here, but we had a door right here. And there were the curtains closed, and then we had this door open, and there was a stairway, like a projection of a stairwell going up to heaven right here. So everybody would look into this doorway and see new things, like they would see the doorway to heaven. And so all the things we saw this year, God said you're empowered to have if you'll believe. So now it's about the Son again. Are you going to believe? Huh? That was a question. Are you going to believe? Let's stand on our feet as you guys prepare. Hey, Blake, did you tell them what song for the healing? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, smart, Tracy. Okay. So we're going to give to the Lord. But I want to I was just ready for